Chris, I'm so glad to have you here today. Lay out your argument about why Facebook is so fundamentally flawed just because it relies on advertising.
I think this is the basic problem with not just Facebook, but kind of the first generation of social media companies, is the business model that worked when they were coming up was advertising. And there's nothing inherently wrong with that. It wasn't like an evil choice for them to make. But the way that that played out, the way that that business exists now, where they become this tremendous machine for printing money because they have this huge share of the advertising market, and all of the users, all of the people that use these services to talk to each other, to talk to their friends, to understand their culture, are not really part of the main economic deal that those services provide. And so you have these companies that exist to help people sell pizza ovens or car insurance or whatever, trying to regulate speech. It's a mad situation to be in to begin with.
But Chris, fundamentally speaking, you can't move the whole internet to a subscription-only model because then it would exclude a huge amount of people who can't afford to pay. Are you saying that there shouldn't be any ad-supported models on the internet?
I'm certainly not saying there shouldn't be any ad-supported models. I do think that subscription models can be powerful even for people who don't pay. One of the great things about subscription models is you can have a lot of content that exists outside of the paywall that people can see and they can, pay to support or not pay and still get the benefit of. But I think fundamentally it's about giving readers and consumers a real choice over how to spend their attention. I think people are waking up to the idea that if I'm spending all of my time, all of my life on some feed that exists, to sell me stuff, that might just be a bad choice.
Chris, how much work do you still have to do in figuring out how to make the subscription model work for great content creators? And Casey Newton is a contributor to CNBC. He's also got Platformer on Substack, and he shared, churn is real. Subscribers don't just show up even when you're producing great content, exclusive interviews. It seems that there are mechanics here that Substack can work on to reduce churn, increase subscribers, and it varies from how it's going to work for journalism versus for comics, right? And you're working on all these different areas.
Totally. I think we're actually just at the very start of what I think will be a sea change in how we think about paying for culture on the internet. And I think Substack is just one piece of a broader shift that the world is becoming ready for. People are ready to pay for things that they care about, ready to be thoughtful about how they're spending their lives and who they trust to get their information from. And I think there's a long way to go, but the basic models that we have today are working astoundingly well. It's working great.
So do you have a priority for, say, journalism versus serialized books, or say comics, or are you trying to do it all? Because it seems like there are different types of investments that would be necessary for each.
Well, we at Substack are kind of focusing on what we think of as, any kind of person that has a unique perspective to bring. Anybody who I kind of want to invite into my life and give a slice of my time to subscribe to, so that they can sort of help filter the world and help me understand the world around me. And I think that journalism is obviously a big part of that, but also, fiction, also other types of art and culture fit that bill. So we're not really focused on one narrow slice of, it's journalist or it's fiction. It's more about this kind of model of an independent writer who is helping curate how I see the world.
Chris, Charlie Wartell, who writes A Galaxy Brain, he wrote an explanation of why he is moving from Substack over to The Atlantic after previously being at the New York Times and moving to Substack. As you see companies like Facebook introduce free versions of what you're doing with their bulletin, do you think that your model is going to be under attack and able to survive when you see people like Charlie Wartell leaving the platform?
I actually think when you see companies like Facebook copying what we've done at Substack, it's not that the model is under attack. It's a sign that the model is working and that other companies are seeing this thing that's happening and kind of wanting to get a piece of the action. I do think that the central to Substack is the idea of putting, respecting people's attention, putting the readers and the writers in charge. And if you are a company that has the business model of Facebook, that's just going to be impossible to do.